Netflix with all my dreams. Wi-Fi strong, it never seems.
Hey everybody, Jeff Mays here. Welcome to Flex Nomad Life. If you haven't been here before, this is my channel to talk about living, working, and traveling around to different places in my semi-retirement. So I made the choice a couple of years ago that I wanted to spend at least half my time in Thailand. Over the years, I've traveled to Thailand, 30 plus times, and I've been doing it for over 25 years. So I kind of knew in my mind where I wanted to go. I wasn't sure what city or what location I wanted to be in, but I was pretty sure that Thailand was where my dream was. It's actually been my dream for a long time. So I started looking at what I wanted to do, and I wanted to share with you the process I went through, because if you're thinking about where you want to go and where you want to live in the future, this might be helpful to you. So there's 5 things that I did that I think were helpful to me, and they really helped me to get to where I'm at now in living where I'm going to be living for 6 months a year. So the first one is, I chose, obviously, the region. I said Thailand is where I wanted to go. And then I kind of narrowed it down between the places I'd been in the past and the cities that I'd traveled to and places that I knew a little bit about. Now, you can do a lot of research on the internet today. 20 years ago, you couldn't have done that. But today, you could actually find out a lot about a place just by going on the internet. You could even jump on Google Maps and take a tour up the street. It's really nice to be able to do that. It saves a lot of time. So I kind of laid it out in a plan. I said I want to live in Thailand. I said there's 2 cities I want to potentially live in, Bangkok or Pattaya, due to the facts that they had what I wanted. I mean, I had a short list of things that, or my things, I guess. It doesn't really matter, but I want to be close to the hospital. I want good public transportation. I want golf courses close by. I want a variety of things to do. I like the bigger city rather than a small village, and those places fit. So the first thing I did was I said, okay, I've got the 2 places. Now I'm going to sit down and find neighborhoods where I might possibly want to live, and then spend some time in each of those neighborhoods and figure out where I might want to go back and spend more time and see if they fit. Now, in my case, Bangkok was my first tour because that's where I went for the first 2-week period. I went in there and I went to the neighborhoods that I'd been to before. I'd spent some time in the 3 neighborhoods that I visited, and I spent a couple of days at each place at a local hotel. And I think that was really important because I had a chance to be in the neighborhood where I remember staying before that I liked. And what I found out was in Bangkok, it's grown. And there's a lot more people, probably double the people living in those neighborhoods that there used to be. And while I love Benjikiti Park and I love the transportation options with the BTS and the MRT, and being able to get all over town quickly and easily, it was crowded. And I just said that wasn't really for me. So it didn't take me too long to figure that out. I spent 10 days or so, went to 3 different neighborhoods, spent some time there, figured out if I wanted to live out further from the city and use the BTS more in a way that would be a commuter type thing, that'd be okay. But to go and work every day and live and have a nomadic work experience, it just really wasn't for me. So that was kind of out. I looked at other cities on the way through this process, and there are some that are great, but they might be on an island, they might be fairly remote, they might be more difficult to get in and out of, and those things were all important to me too. So that top list of things that I was concerned about or that I wanted in my life, they were all pretty important, and I knew from my past experience that going to Pattaya might be a good choice for me. So I've been to Pattaya a few times in the last 3 or 4 years, since after 2000, and I was able to go back to Pattaya, and I stayed in downtown, the central area of Pattaya. And I was concerned about that because there's a lot going on. There's a lot of nightlife, there's a lot of stuff that's really tempting to go do. And I was afraid, and I found that my resolve to not do it was probably not as good as it should be. While I think it's okay to go out and party and have fun 1 or 2 nights a week, I don't think that doing it every night is conducive to working and trying to do the things that I was trying to do. So I figured out fairly quickly that the downtown, the central Pattaya type location wasn't going to work for me. So I moved over to Jantiem. And Jantiem Beach is only a 15-minute boat bus ride away. So it's really close if you want to come into the town and have that fun. And those boat buses run all night, so you can have all the nightlife you want. But it was much quieter. You know, the people that I was seeing on the streets, that I was sitting down talking to in restaurants, they were all older or they were families. And they were people who didn't have this crazy nightlife scene going on. They were people that had a more regular life. They weren't looking for the nightlife. They weren't looking for the craziness. They're looking for a nice beach, a nice sunny place. You know, and Jantiem, to me, seemed like a great place. So I spent a few days there, and I said, okay, this is definitely an option. I knew there were a couple places north of Pattaya, but I knew that was going to be harder for me because of the public transportation. There really wasn't the transportation like there was south of town. So I went up to Pratamnak Hill, and Pratamnak Hill area, that area is an area I've stayed before. I liked it, and I looked around and I said, it's a good area. There's plenty of places to stay. I tried it there, and that's a place that's interesting to me. So between those two, over the next round of vacation visits, I spent time in both places. And by doing that, I moved further into the neighborhood rather than staying in a big hotel. I found condos or I found apartments that I could Airbnb. And by moving into the neighborhood, then I could see how it really was rather than living in a full-service hotel, see how it was to be in a private location. Now, you're not going to find those places easily sometimes in those neighborhoods because Thailand has some rules. And one of the rules is that a 30-day contract on a rental property. So if you wanted to go for 2 weeks to a condo, first thing you're going to notice when you walk in the condo, there's a big sign that says, this is not a hotel. We do not rent for less than 30 days. If you're doing that, you're in trouble. And I don't know anybody that's been arrested for that. Probably wouldn't be. But the owners could get in trouble for sure. So even if it's an Airbnb, you have to be a little bit careful of how you're doing it because you don't want a problem with the management or getting thrown out halfway through your stay and losing your money. So think about that, important. So anyway, I stayed at 2 places that were legit. I could do for a couple weeks each. And then I went back and stayed for a month. And the month period was good. I did that 3 times last year. And I figured out that neighborhood in Jantiem Beach area, Soy 8 area, was something I really liked. That area, those condos really were nice. I liked them. It's newer. It's a newer area, I guess I would say, just because a lot of buildings, there's been a lot of stuff pop up to support those people that live in those buildings. And it's just a great area as far as I'm concerned, right on the beach, and a nice beach, which is good. The second area I looked at, the Pratamnak area, I liked it too, but it's different. I was on top of a hill. I was looking over the whole area, beautiful, beautiful parks, beautiful lush green area. Well, I like that too, so that's where I'm staying now, and that's where I'll be for the next couple of years anyway. Once I came up with those 2 places, spent a month there in each one, decided the neighborhoods were good, and then I started figuring out the local scene a little bit. where it was to go for co-working spaces, where the gyms were, where the local watering holes were, still places to go have fun if you want to in both areas. And I really started living like a local. I was eating local food, sometimes street food, street vendors. I was going to the night markets. I was doing the things that you would do as a local, and I was going lots of times. If I went to a restaurant, I'd sit down and I'd intentionally sit in a place where other expats might be that I could talk to. And I'd ask them about their journey and how it was working for them, if they had been, how long they'd been there, where they're from. There's a whole group of people that are doing the same thing. They may not be doing exactly the same thing, but they're doing the same thing and they're interesting to talk to. Some of them have been doing it for many, many years. Others are brand new at it. So it's kind of fun to do that. As I get back to playing golf, I'll spend time with some of the golf clubs. I know a number of the bars in the area have weekday golf outings where everybody meets at the bar and they take a van out to the golf course and play golf. And I think I've done that in the past when my back was in better shape. But as that gets better, I'll be able to do that again. And that's fun because you build some good camaraderie and you build some good relationships with the guys that you're with. And I think that's important. Going to a place and just working 5 or 6 hours a day and going out drinking and not really having a relationship with the people around you, that makes it tough. So anyway, that was kind of the next stage. And then finally, I started to figure out the local things I wanted to do. So there's a lot of tourist attractions in these areas. And I wanted to figure out where I wanted to go and then make a plan to go see some of those things. Because it's important to get to know the area. Maybe friends will come visit and you can take them someplace and you know what it's about before you go. And there's always the opportunity to meet new people and go to places that they talk about and learn about those places. I made a decision to rent for 6 months, finally, when I did this decision. And I stayed 3-month-long places. Then the last place I stayed 6 months. And there's some rules that you just have to know about that are maybe different. Well, they are different than the U.S. In the U.S., we have rental agents that are property managers usually. They have realtors they work with inside their companies, and there's regulations, and there's contracts, and there's things that are very set forth down and legal and very different in Thailand. If you go to Facebook Marketplace and look for a place to stay for a month or 6 months or a year, there's going to be people on there that present themselves as a rental agent, but they may not be. There's no requirement for a real estate agent to be licensed or to actually be trained, or here in America, they're licensed, they pay a dues to the Realtor Association, they belong to an ethical code that says this is the way we do things, we use certain contracts, very, very regulated and very consumer friendly, I guess I would say. Thailand, not so much. And you have to watch that, because if you go in there with the mindset that it's the same as here, you could get hurt. I've seen a number of people post over the last couple of years of agents who took their money and took off, never to be seen again, and that's not good. So when you start talking to somebody about renting their place, whether it's Facebook Marketplace or a little bit different on Airbnb, but any place that you might be seeing a rental unit, you want to ask who the owner is and how they're related to that owner, and then figure out if they actually have the right to rent the place. Sometimes on Facebook Marketplace, I found that people they're going and finding units that were for rent, and then they're going out and advertising them. And they're not necessarily have a relationship with the owner until you make the decision that you want to try to get in there. And then they go to the owner and go, I have this guy that wants to rent your place. And they sign a contract. So you want to watch that. I used a regular realtor office And I say realtor, it's not really a real estate office. Probably one of the bigger ones in Pattaya. And they've got a great reputation, been around 20 some years. I used them just because I started to get nervous about all these people I was talking to that said they were representing the owner, and I didn't really know if they were. And that worked out great for me, using that agent, because he showed me some places. He also worked with the owner, and I actually ended up meeting the owner and him together, and we talked about the logistics of the 6 months and how it was going to work. By doing a 6-month contract, I was able to take the year price, which is usually quite a bit less than the monthly price, and get that year price for 6 months. And then I paid for it for 6 months in advance, which also got me a discount. So people are really kind of oriented that way. You're going to usually pay 2 months deposit on a 6-month or a year lease. And at least with my owner, the way that's worked is he takes the utilities out of the deposit each month. So I'm not having to pay him each month. He's already got enough to cover that. And then at the end of the term, he'll be giving me back my refund. So you want to kind of, it's different than what it might be here in the US. So you want to be aware of that. And you want to think through it and ask a lot of questions. I know when I first started looking at places to rent, I didn't necessarily ask the questions. And I think that's something that you need to do, and you need to find out exactly what's going on so there aren't any surprises. The last thing you want is a surprise and having a problem. So when you're looking at these places where you might want to live, you want to remember that they're condos usually. So they're not fully serviced. They may have various levels of bedding, towels, silverware, cooking utensils. Most of the places I've looked at have that stuff, but there's some that don't. So you want to make sure that everything's there that you need, because if it's not there, you may have to go buy something. And depending on what your plan is down the road, you may not want to be packing around a bunch of stuff that you have to put in storage at some point. So be careful of that, and be careful of who's renting you the place and if they have the right to, and also if they're able to service you if for some reason something happens. I had an experience at a condo that I rented that we had 2 or 3 power outages, brand new condo, and the owner was in China and didn't respond very well. I didn't know that when I rented the place, but the owner through Airbnb was not responding, and I didn't know what to do. I had to go get a hotel room a couple nights because there was no power at the place and really couldn't even see, or were high enough in the building that didn't really want to be there without an elevator. And it was tough. So you want to think through what's going on. Make sure you have a legitimate owner. Make sure you have a legitimate property manager that's able to help you. And then once you have that, it's pretty easy to figure out where you want to rent a month or 6 months or a year, whatever it is. Just make sure you understand it's not like it is here in the US. So I think those are kind of my tips for today. And hopefully that those will help you. Just to go back through them, the 5 tips. Choose where you're going to go and figure out 2 or 3 specific locations that you want to go look at. And the second thing is to find the neighborhoods that you might want to go to and spend a few days in each neighborhood. And then once you do that, narrow it down to 2 or 3 places, 2 or 3 neighborhoods where you can rent a Airbnb or something more local than a hotel, so you can figure out how people live there and how you would live there, living the lifestyle that you want. And then finally, find all the local things that there are to do, because that's going to give you an opportunity to explore the area. It's also going to teach you what's there. So if somebody does come visit, you know where to take them, and you're going to have more resources that way. And finally, when you go rent something for a longer period, make sure you're aware of what's going on. I think I went into that pretty deep, so I won't go further. But those are the things that I would suggest you do. I really hope you have a good luck. I hope that everything goes well with your journey. And as my journey goes, I'm going to be flexible, and I'm going to be the nomad that's working part of the time. And I'm also going to be out there living my life to the fullest. We'll talk some more next time. Thanks for watching. We'll talk to you soon. I'm Jeff May.